Oye, mi gente, this is your boy Miguel. I'm jumping right on camera so I don't go through my anxiety thing. Um, so here it is. This is what I want to talk to you about today. Okay, listen up very closely, everybody. And for those who already have this information, that's great. If this is new information, definitely make sure you make a note of it or write it down and just have it and document it so you can refer back to it when you experience these things. I want to talk to you today about the relationship between schizophrenia and autism. I've been really dealing with this for a while, and before I came into this information that I'm going to share with you, I had for quite some time had been experiencing these symptoms, but I didn't really know the proper name, if you will, to put to them. And as I began to continue to look into things, it all just came together and it all makes so much sense. We really are closer to our autistic cousins than we really probably first believed. Several videos ago I talked to you about schizophrenia, more things that you should know. And in that video I talked about some of the effects of schizophrenia on cognition, on our mind. In other words, the way that our mind works in the way that it thinks, but because schizophrenia is a thought disorder, so it disturbs, interrupts, and alters the way that our brain works, and in a lot of ways, and particularly in terms of our cognition, that's your ability to think, to remember, executive functioning. You know, we talked about that. That's your ability, your brain's command center, to give orders and to put things in perspective so we can get tasks done, completed, and in a timely, efficient manner. And all of that. All right. Here we go with this information. Now, as we found out about deistic thinking, that's when the ego boundary has been destroyed by schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, and that's when your thing in your brain that helps you to understand what's real and not real, that's been like broken down, and so you can easily slip back and forth, and some people kind of stay stuck over there, depending on how ill they are in a non-real world, you know, in terms of our thinking and the way that we perceive things. I think in a lot of cases, I spend a lot of time over there, all in my own head. And then we talked about in that video autistic thinking, which causes you to stay focused on yourself and your own personal experience. So deistic thinking is when we are not able to view the world in a reality standpoint. We are not able to see it literally as it is. It may be a dream or something that doesn't make logical sense. We can also with that get into disassociation, more so when we're feeling that life isn't real and everything that's happening to us isn't real. Okay, so we covered it. We talked about all of that. All right, and then again on the autistic thinking, that's when we get trapped inside of our own heads and inside of our own thoughts, and that creates the path for social withdrawal and social isolation, because you begin to lose your skills and even your desire to socialize and be around people. And once that is a very difficult thing to recover. That is very difficult. I have went through that with family and friends, and even now I'm faced with some situations and trying to go back over that and rebuild bridges that we destroyed through this illness, through the social isolation. I'm not saying you're right, I'm tired, I haven't been asleep. It can be one. Alright, now, one thing that happens as a phenomenon, and I wanted to give you an example, but I'm just going to talk you through it. There's some great video examples of this. And we experience the same thing in schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. That is called, like sensory overload, and it's when sometimes, like for myself, an example, I have periods and episodes that I can't stand to hear sounds. Okay, for example, say I'm in the store, and I gave this example before in another video, but it totally fits what's going on right now with this conversation. Alright, so I'm in the store, I'm trying to order something, and this lady, 3 or 4 people back in the line, she whips out her cell phone and she goes to yakking on the phone. So that's what can happen when you have schizophrenia. And the same way when you have autism, you're not able to filter out sounds, so sometimes everything sounds freaking much louder than it really is. And a lot of times we're not able to filter out background noises, and so the background noises sound like the foreground noises. In other words, if there's a radio playing in the background, or television, or there's a conversation running across the room, for some reason we are able to hear that stuff like super loud, as if somebody is talking to us right there in our face, in a direct ongoing conversation in our face or in our ear. And that causes the most horrific confusion in the brain, because we're standing there, we're trying to sort out these sounds, and we're trying to follow the conversation that we're having with whoever it is, friend, mom, dad, teacher, professor, whatever, whoever. And a lot of times, even going like on public transportation or whatever, I have to have headphones on, even when I go in a store, restaurant, because sometimes to hear people talk, and I heard someone refer to this as psychomotor agitation. I'm not exactly sure what this part is called right here, but I know that in autistic people this goes on too, where they get easily agitated. I know I certainly, as a person living with schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, I get easily agitated, and sometimes it's so bad, it's like I want to scream, would you just shut the fuck up? I mean, it's awful, and sometimes you just cannot filter out the sounds, and the sounds get into your head and you can't think, and it's really, really a hot mess.com when that kind of thing goes down, and you just like, really freaks you out. And then additionally, with the sensory overload, it's like at times all the lights come together, all the sounds come together. I've had moments and episodes like in the store. I walk into the store and all the bright lights, it's like the lights are turned up 10 times brighter than what they are, and then I can hear all the conversations. Do you remember the movie Superman Returns? I know a lot of you guys probably saw that with Brandon Roth, I think his name was. Alright, when he asked Lois, do you know what it's like to hear everything? He said, well, I can. And it's kind of like that when you have schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder and autism, with that sensory overload. And that's the phrase I'm using. I've heard other people use that phrase. There may be another, maybe it's called spectrum autism disorder. I'm not sure, but it's basically what I'm describing is what this does. Your senses get overloaded. You hear almost every conversation, and it's loud as heck. It's in your ears. You cannot filter out the foreground noise from the background noise, and it's to the point where you can't think, and it messes up what you're trying to say, and you can't process anything. It's like somebody put some headphones on your ears and they turn them all the way up. It's horrible. I think one of the worst things in reference to that, to even try to deal with, is to try to play it off like you're not hearing all this and go on and have a regular conversation. Sometimes I just have to, and I see people try to judge me and let me have it or whatever. Like if sometimes I get really quiet or I stop talking, and sometimes when I do that, Okay, I am going quiet because I'm trying to hear the main conversation so I can respond to the person in front of me. But sometimes the frustration of that causes me just to probably appear to be completely zoned the fuck out. But it's really severe, and this is a challenge that maybe not every person with schizophrenia, schizoaffective person disorder will have. But as I told you, each person with any illness will have varying degrees of different symptoms. Some people will have none of these symptoms, but all of these or some of those. And I'm sure a lot of people with schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder can relate to this. It even at times have been times I've been out and I'm crossing the street and I can't tell whether or not I have the light. You know, that's really dangerous. Thank God I haven't been killed, you know, or riding on a bike, because all the lights and the sounds, and I'm not able to clearly see what the lamp is reading, the post, in terms of that. So I wanted to talk about this, and I wanted us to have this conversation and to be aware of this so we can understand that we do have a lot in common with our autistic cousins and brothers and sisters. And again, this is something that I've always felt for quite a while, but now it's, you know, more information about it. So let's talk about it. And if you've noticed more similarities between schizophrenia and autism, definitely leave it in the comments, do a video response, and let's have conversations about this. Sometimes the cognitive problems with having schizophrenia, schizoaffective, are so bad it makes my speech in reverse or writing in reverse, or sometimes it's so embarrassing because I'll say something and it's completely wrong and I have the right answer with what I want to say, but the wrong thing comes out, and it causes people to think that you're slow and you're stupid and all of that. And that's not it. Many of us that have mental illness are very, very intelligent. Alright, I have no idea how many minutes I'm on, but I just wanted to share this, and I promise and I hope that I get to that the documentary on mental illness and the police. We're running out of time. I've been so scattered that I hope I can really sit down and do the research on that. So I hope I'm not late, guys. Alright? Love and live, mi gente. Te quiero. Bye. Had been experiencing these symptoms, but I didn't really know the proper name, if you will, to put to them. And as I began to continue to look into things, it all just came together and it all makes so much sense. We really are closer to our autistic cousins than we really probably first believed. Several videos ago I talked to you. Oh yeah, mi gente, this is your boy Miguel. I'm jumping right on camera so I don't go through my anxiety thing. So here it is. This is what I want to talk to you about today. Okay, listen up very closely, everybody. And for those who already have this information, that's great. If this is new information, definitely make sure you make a note of it or write it down. And just the way that our brain works, and in a lot of ways, and particularly in terms of our cognition, that's your ability to think, to remember, executive functioning. You know, we talked about that. That's your ability, your brain's command center, to give orders and to put things in. About schizophrenia, more things that you should know. And in that video, I talked about some of the effects of schizophrenia on cognition, on our mind. In other words, the way that our mind works, in the way that it thinks. But because schizophrenia is a thought disorder, so it disturbs, interrupts, and alters habit, and document it so you can refer back to it when you experience these things. I want to talk to you today about the relationship between schizophrenia and autism. I've been really dealing with this for a while, and before I came into this information that I'm going to share with you, I had for quite some time